Hey guys, hey, it's Matthew. Just wanted to make this tutorial regarding Quiz 2 for digital media. And so I have these questions or quiz questions I'd like to run through with you. The first is, how do you rotate an object? Furthermore, how can you give an object rounded corners? Okay, so let's start by coming over here and grabbing it's called the rectangle tool. That's the technical name for it. Shortcut is M. Truthfully, I don't use the shortcut for that one so often. I'll just come over here and click on it. So if I want to create a perfect square, by the way, I hold Shift with the rectangle tool. And if I want to make a regular rectangle, just kind of using your mouse, dragging around, you can make any sized rectangle you prefer. That being said, I'm going to delete this one. So I'm going to come over here, use the black arrow tool, select it, and then hit delete on my keyboard. Now it's gone. Okay, so how do you rotate an object? Well, this square, maybe I want to rotate it to the right. So I can take my black cursor over here, I have it selected, and I just put it here in the corner. By the way, if I move a little bit fast, but when I put my cursor near that corner, you can see that the cursor changes into that little arrow thing wrapping around the corner. And then there's an arrow on each side. Just click down with your mouse, and then you can rotate an object. Command Z will undo that. Truthfully, you can also select it. If I'm not mistaken, you can come up here to Object, Transform, and you can rotate this way as well. And let's say you want to rotate an object to a particular degree, like say, I don't know, 45 degrees. So we can rotate objects very, very precisely that way. I'm going to hit Command Z and undo that. So now I just want to point your attention. The second part to the question asks, furthermore, how can you give an object rounded corners? Well, that's easy. If I select this object, you'll see there are these handles that are present that can be pulled and moved around like so. But in addition, there are these little circles here that you can grab. And so you can sort of uh, grab one of those, and it's gonna manage all four of those corners and create some rounded corners. Okay. All right. So we've answered that question. Let's delete this object. Select it with the black arrow tool. Hit delete on your keyboard. Now it's gone. Second question, is it easy to make a circle with the ellipse tool? How is this done? Well, if you look over here on the left-hand side, you're not always going to see the ellipse tool right off the bat, and that's because it's actually hiding under the rectangle tool. So if you click and hold with your mouse, you'll see that you have a lot of options here. And by the way, here's another option to create a rounded rectangle shape. So if you don't want to go through the trouble that I just shown you, you can use this tool right here. But here's the ellipse tool. Very, very handy. I'm pretty much always using the rectangle or the ellipse tool. These are great and they're fancy, but these are my go-tos. So I'm going to let go of my mouse and engage the ellipse tool. And if I want to make a circle, I could try to eyeball it, I guess. Well, actually, the smart guides is showing me that that's a perfect circle, but the ellipse tool is kind of, for making these rounded objects that maybe are not so perfect. And then you can let go, then you've got your object that you can work with. Okay, delete. But what if I want to make a perfect circle? Well, just like how I made a perfect square, with my left pinky, I can hold the Shift button and then create a perfect circle. Pretty simple. Delete the object. Okay, where is the star tool located? How can you change the number of points it produces? Okay, let's see. Go. And I didn't quite select it. Whoops. There we go. All right. If I remember correctly, I'm trying to remember actually how to change how many points. There we go. Okay. So if you want to make a star with a certain amount of points, my advice would be to engage the star tool, and then on your blank canvas, you can simply click, and then you'll have some options, and you can change the number of points right here. So maybe I want to star with just 3 points. Hit OK. There you go. Maybe I want a star with 6 points. Boom. There you go. Okay. Very easy. Drag to select, hit delete on your keyboard. Okay, next question. Describe your experience with the shaper tool. Pleasant or easy? Okay. So I'm going to leave this question. This is more of a rhetorical question, if you ask me. Uh, so I'll just leave it up to you guys to figure that one out, okay? You guys can answer that. What is your favorite option regarding image trace? 3 color, 6 color, black and white logo. Let's see if I can find an image. So I'm going to create 3 artboards with the same image so that we can really kind of compare all these different options side by side. So here we go. To do an image trace, you drag with the black arrow tool or select with the black arrow tool. Then there's this chevron up here. Click the chevron and you'll see your options. And there's 3, 6, and a lot of other options, which you guys can explore. But let's do a 3 color trace first. Takes a second. Not bad. Not really. Not very good. Let's try the second option, 6 color trace. Let's see if that looks any better. You definitely see more detail. I can see, just more range, more value range. Okay, and now let's try the black and white logo or binary tracing method. See what happens here. Okay, well, that just kind of washed everything out. So, certain images work with certain tracing methods a little bit, better than others. The real truth is I like all of them. And what I really like to do is combine them. So sometimes I'll stack the image on top of itself on 3 or 4, maybe even 5 different layers. Then I'll perform the function on each of those images, and then I'll break this apart, and then I'll kind of start taking things off, or I'll essentially combine things, because I actually think that oftentimes the black and white trace goes really well if you have the original photograph in the background. When you do that, of course you have to maybe delete, the white information so that only the black information remains. But that's a really fun effect to use because it combines this graphic look with the photographic look. So I think they're all real beautiful methods, and trace is a very, very handy thing in Adobe Illustrator. So I'm going to drag and select. Then I'm going to engage the artboard tool. And I'm just going to delete these extra artboards that I just created so that we can get back to our original artboard. Okay. Let's see, which do you prefer, the scissors tool or the knife tool or the eraser tool? And I think basically I'm trying to show you guys what each of these things do that are a little bit different. So let's say, for example, you have a shape. Let's actually use this rounded rectangle tool because I don't use it very often. And let's hit E for eraser. Whoops, we have to have the right. There we go. There's the eraser tool. So now we can kind of like just swipe. And because this is a fill, we can erase some of this information. Then look at, it also kind of chopped this object in half. So now there's 2 separate vector objects. And if I select the eraser tool again, I can do it this way. And now I have 4 objects. Okay, that's pretty cool. That's pretty handy. Okay, so now let's delete that and let's try it again. Okay, except now it's asking about the scissors tool. Okay, well, let's take a look at the scissors tool. There we go. Yeah, so essentially the scissors tool, instead of operating more with the fill, it operates primarily with the stroke, actually. And just to kind of make things a little bit more clear, select, and instead of this object having a fill, I want it to have a visible stroke. So I'm going to hit this arrow right here and just kind of swap those two. And so now I can use the scissors tool, select that segment, and then hit delete. And I've just kind of just removed the stroke here, okay? Then I can select this. I could, let's see what happens if I try to give it a fill. So you wouldn't know that that line has disappeared because the fill is filling it in. But if we go back to the stroke, you can see that that line or that stroke is no longer there. So that's the scissors function. The knife tool is a fun one, if you ask me. That's probably my favorite. So I'm going to go back. I want it to be a fill, okay? And so if we come over here to the knife tool, I can just kind of slice through like so. And then I have two objects. Okay. So let's see, a compound path. Honestly, I'm gonna Google that one just to make sure I give you guys the right answer, okay? Okay, it's a single object made from two or more paths. Well, so basically it's multiple shapes, okay? Um, we can make a compound shape with the pathfinder tool. So we can actually put these two objects kind of close to each other. And then I can come up here to window and engage the pathfinder tool. Okay. And I can select both of those objects and then unite those objects. So there's a compound path with two or more shapes that have become one. Um, you can also have maybe a compound path doesn't necessarily have to be united, if you ask me. It could just be two objects, make that a different color. And maybe we want to object and then group these guys together. So now, these two have literally, the vectors have been united. And in this circumstance, these are still two separate objects, but they have been grouped together. And the grouping function can be found under object. So let's say I could even group all 1, 2, and 3. So I could select, drag select all three of those objects, then come over here to object, group. Now all of them are together. And if I change my mind, I can select them, object, ungroup all. Now they're separate entities again. Okay. Okay, the next question. Let's see. Describe why the shape builder tool is so useful. And so, I'll let you guys decide why it's useful, but maybe I'll just kind of show you an example of how how it works. So I'm gonna create four circles with a simple stroke. I'm gonna put them all kind of in proximity to each other. There we go. So now I'm going to select all four of those objects. Then I'm going to select the shape builder tool over here. And watch how I can just kind of connect these objects with the shape builder tool. Maybe, there we go. So you can create multiple tools. I mean, it's kind of like the Pathfinder tool, if you ask me. I mean, in all honesty, that same exact thing could have been done with the Pathfinder tool. Let's give it a shot. Select all of, well, unite those guys, and then I believe we can unite those guys. Okay, so now, believe it or not, Those guys are all in unison, or it's one object because they're just barely connected here. And I guess the thing that that tool didn't do was it didn't fill in this area in the middle. Although I could argue, I always say this in class, there are many ways to skin a cat in Adobe Illustrator. So you could grab that color, then you could grab the blob brush tool, and then change the size so you're not doing this for forever. Actually, this way. There we go. So to be fair, I guess the shape builder tool did make that a little bit faster. But I think I guess I'm just used to the Pathfinder tool. I like it a lot. But yeah, the shape builder tool, you can combine shapes. Okay. Okay, so next question. And of course, we're moving on to the Pathfinder effects regarding shape building. So in a way, I've kind of already answered that. But let's make this a little bit more interesting. And by the way, you guys, I really do. I love the Pathfinder tool. You can, I'm just gonna sort of do this kind of thing, just to kind of create some opportunities. Okay, let's say sometimes when you're using Illustrator, there's a circumstance where you need this really funny kind of piece in between. So two objects will yield this object in between. So in other words, you make object A and object B in order to create object C. And through the process of that, object A and B are actually destroyed. Okay. But I'm going to make these all, instead of having a stroke, they have the fill. Drag and select objects A and B. And then there's this option over here. And by the way, the way that you can find the Pathfinder tool is under Window, Pathfinder, right there. It's checked. It's engaged. Click Intersect. Boom. Now we've got Object C. And actually, we can use Object C to take a piece out of this object. So drag and select both objects. So instead of intersect, we're going to click minus front. Okay. And then the third function, we have two objects, A and B. Okay. Drag and select both. And now we can unite those objects. So now this is just one big object. Okay. So the Pathfinder tool is very, very useful. It's one of my favorite things about Illustrator. Very, very powerful. What is your favorite feature regarding Adobe Illustrator so far? I like image trace, and I also like the Pathfinder tool. I think I also really like the variety of color. I really enjoy just coming up here to the default palette, actually. I know that kind of sounds a little bit funny, but I love the cyan and the magenta and the yellow and the black and all these beautiful, just sort of out of the box colors that are real bright and vibrant. And then if you want to, I want to show you something else, which is one of my favorites because I'm a Rodchenko and Kandinsky fan, but you can come down here to Russian poster art, and they have a very specific palette that references probably historical posters by a variety of artists. So like some real fun colors here. I like that section. Okay, thanks guys. Bye-bye.